Hi, I'm Will Shafroth with the National Park Foundation, and I'm joined today by Scott Moore, the Senior Vice President of Corporate Relations and the Chief Administrative Officer with Union Pacific. Scott, thanks for agreeing to spend some time with me to discuss our commitment to national parks.
Great to be here. Great to be a partner of the National Park Foundation.
Listen, Scott, you and I have talked a lot about you and your wife's passion for the parks and your frequent visit to various places, but I don't know that I know the answer to the question of what is your favorite national park, or do you have a favorite place in a national park somewhere?
I think Mini Glacier up in Glacier is about my favorite spot of all the parks. I mean, the Ahwahnee in Yosemite is a tough second to that, as is Jackson Lake Lodge, but I'm going to go with Mini Glacier and all the hikes around Glacier Park there.
That's great. And share with me again, what do national parks mean to you on a personal level, Scott?
It's one of those things where you think about growing up in the great big auto vacations in the 60s and 70s. Those had a tremendous impression as to those times our family was together. And then in my case, my wife and I found a special bonding, two busy professionals, go to a national park, get away from it all. They call it care-killing scenery up in Glacier. And that's really what it was. It's just a great place for us to unwind, get away from our jobs, and get closer to each other.
One of the things that you and I have talked about in the past, Scott, is the common ground that national parks represent. The people of all different parts of our country, all different ages, of different political persuasions.
The parks were created for everyone, regardless of social strata, regardless of where you lived. It's truly for all Americans. And when you work for a company like Union Pacific, we're building America's our motto. It's one of those things where you apply that to what the national parks are for all Americans. And it's just really unparalleled out there in a variety of ways.
Well, listen, the National Park Foundation and Union Pacific have had a very long-standing partnership, and I've always been impressed by how well aligned UP is with our national parks. So can you tell me a bit about that from your perspective?
Well, obviously going back into the after national parks, and certainly in the 1920s, beginning then, railroads were looking for ways to take passengers to places out across the great American West and Union Pacific's. West Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, Bryce Canyon, Southern Pacific with Yosemite, all those places where the Union Pacific itself played a key role in the railroad growing and the national park growing, and quite honestly in America growing. And that's why building America and the national parks fit together, because that's what we did all those years long ago. Fast forward to today, that synergy is there all over again as we find ways to enjoy the great American West of the Western UP territory in the national parks.
Yeah, I just love the symmetry of that. As America was growing in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that was the time when we started setting aside land for public purposes and enjoyment, which was a unique thing in the world, and still is for many countries. And the fact that the railroads were expanding into the very places where parks were being established, and the railroads helping those places to get established, it's a wonderful story that I think very few people appreciate. And it's about more than history, right? Union Pacific is connecting people to parks in new ways. In particular, as the National Park Foundation's corporate partner to support the establishment of Pullman National Monument back in 2015, which park will open sometime in the next year from now. So share with me a little bit about that.
Well, certainly. Obviously, actually predated our national partnership. During the Obama administration, we were contacted about the Pullman situation. Obviously not directly Union Pacific, but it's rail related. And it's a great opportunity. Those in Illinois and the national park folks wanted to celebrate that great, unique American heritage of the Pullman cars were rail related. So we got involved in the renovation of that property there. There's some great things that are going to be happening there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's I've been out there a number of times, Scott. I know you've been out there too. It's just to see that part of Chicago, which has been economically challenged for many years, have the opportunity to come alive through the establishment of the first national park site in the Chicago area, really gives hope to that community. We've seen a lot of other development going in there now, and redevelopment and economic stimulation, but there's really nothing like the establishment of a national park unit to draw tourism and visitors from all over the country. So I know that's in a way what UP does in so many ways, parts of its business, but hats off to you guys for being one of the very first funders of that project.
No, it's great. Then obviously, when we were looking for, we have 3 pillars. We have workforce development, community spaces, and safety. And we were looking for a national community spaces partner. There's really no one better than national parks. I mean, the brand that it has and what it actually is.
Right.
That one became one of my easier decisions in my capacity, saying, if the national parks can work with us, we want to work with them, because that is the pillar, community space. And so we take that community space concept down to local grants and regional grants, but the leader in that community space across the country is our partnership with national parks.
Now, Union Pacific was selected National Park Foundation as one of its 3 national key partners for its redesigned Community Ties giving program. And so you shared a little bit about it already, but what value do you think NPF specifically brings to this program?
Well, when we look at our, we go through 7,000 communities as Union Pacific. And when you look at what it takes to be a successful community, you have to have a job, workforce development, that's one of the things. You have to be safe, that's another thing. And you have to have things to do and places to go. And so when you look at that on a community level, we're finding ways to do that. And then you take that to a national level. What can you take that has a national brand of space? And that is a National Park Service.
Union Pacific is the largest private donor to one of the National Park Foundation's hallmark programs, Open Outdoors for Kids, which provides opportunities for young people to explore America's national parks. So why did UP choose to support this program, and how has it impacted your local communities?
Well, for one, Open Outdoors for Kids, just by the name itself, I mean, it's one of those things that I grew up on a farm in rural Nebraska, and I was basically feral. And there are a lot of kids that aren't feral anymore. They're stuck in their home. So you got to get out there with kids. The other great thing about how this worked especially well for us is we found a ways, there's UP communities, there's UP parks out there in our Western system. We found ways to really connect those communities with those parks, with the UP people in those areas. And that tailor-made fit really works well for us. Obviously there's some iconic national parks we all know about: Yellowstone, Grand Canyon, Yosemite. But one of the neat things I really found out in this program, when we started connecting our communities with a national park in the vicinity, there's hundreds of those things out there that I wouldn't have named off the top of my head. And so finding a way for those children near those parks, those communities, to get introduced to that more localized national park at a young age is just a great way to start good behavior early that's going to last a lifetime.
The other part of that, Scott, that's not unimportant right now is that, as park visitation has increased pretty dramatically over the last 10 years, more and more of the people that are new to the parks are going to some of the same parks that you described a second ago: Yosemite, Yellowstone, Glacier, Rocky Mountain, Grand Canyon. And those places are getting a lot more crowded. What we're trying to also do is educate folks around the country about these lesser known places, and so that we can disperse the visitation around the country, number one. But number two, these are amazing places. Like you said, that if you haven't been there before, you think, wow, I had no idea that this place existed. And you learn something about that geography, that community, something that happened there. And it's been a wonderful thing to use the partnership with UP to be able to highlight some of those lesser known places in the park system. We're launching this new Junior Ranger Railroad Explorer activity book. And I know that's something that you have an interest in. So share with us a bit about that and why that's an important tool for the Union Pacific partnership.
It's a great way to show some railroad history, how it's tied to the national parks, as well as a rail safety message. It's one of those things, they say everybody loves railroad, but kids really love trains. And so to use that train concept, teach them history, which is so important, understand how they're tying together, and a safety message, that's always important to us. That's just another great way where we've been able to partner together to something that works for the Park Service and works for Union Pacific, and telling that history, telling about the programs, and telling about safety.
And one of the things that's always most special to me is to see these young kids wearing their vests with all the Junior Ranger badges on them. And they couldn't be more thrilled and proud that they visit all these places. And so providing educational content around the railroad experience is something that the Park Service really hasn't had the opportunity to provide up until now. So you're giving these kids an opportunity to learn more about railroads and expand their curiosity about the history of our country. So it's, again, thank you for making that happen. So is there anything else on your mind about parks or our partnership that you'd like to share today?
Ken Burns and America's Best Idea, Union Pacific Building America. Those two things together are just a great combination. But most importantly, the national parks and what they offer to children today, what they've offered to generations in the past. Most importantly, what we need to do together now to make sure that they're there for future generations. That's our responsibility in this generation. Union Pacific wants to help that. And we're glad we have a great partner, the National Park Service and Foundation, that are willing to do that with us.
Thank you again, Scott, for the great conversation. For more information about our work together, please visit nationalparks.org. Thanks again, Scott.
Thank you, Will.